All right, today we are jumping into an absolutely wild political drama from nearly 2,500 years ago. Seriously, this is a story that put the very soul of Athenian democracy on trial, and it brings up these huge questions about power, justice, and survival, questions that you'll see are just as real for us today as they were back then. So let me ask you this. What's more important for a state? Is it justice or is it self-interest? I mean, really think about it. Put yourself in their shoes. You're a citizen of this massive empire. One of your best, most trusted allies completely stabs you in the back, right in the middle of a horrible war. You manage to crush their rebellion, and now you get to decide what happens to them. Do you go for pure vengeance, what feels like justice? Or do you make the smart move, the one that's best for your own security, even if it doesn't feel quite as satisfying? That's the heart of the problem we're digging into.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The year is 428 BCE. Athens is deep in this absolutely brutal conflict, the Peloponnesian War, against their arch-rival, Sparta. And things are not going well. The city's been worn down by war, it's been devastated by a horrible plague. I mean, they are literally fighting for their lives. And it's right at this absolute low point that some shocking news arrives. Turns out, Mytilene, a really important allied city on the island of Lesbos, has just revolted. Now, even though Athens is on its knees, they react fast. They send a fleet, they lock the city down, and after a long, grueling, year-long siege, the city of Mytilene, starving and totally abandoned by the Spartans who were supposed to help them, finally surrenders. Unconditionally.
And you have to understand why the Athenians were just so furious about this. See, Mytilene wasn't some conquered state, suffering under the Athenian thumb. No, they were a privileged, independent ally. They had their own powerful fleet, and they chose to betray Athens at its absolute weakest moment. For the Athenians, this wasn't some noble fight for freedom. It was just pure, inexcusable treachery.
All right, so the ringleaders of the revolt are captured and shipped off to Athens. And now it's up to the citizens themselves, the regular people, gathered in their democratic assembly, to decide the fate of an entire city.
And let me tell you, the mood in that assembly is pure fury. The betrayal is still stinging, the war is far from over, and the people, well, they want to send a message. And in this fit of anger, they make a decision, a truly shocking one. So what did they decide? It was absolutely brutal. The decree was to execute all of the adult men in Mytilene and to enslave all the women and children. And there's no hesitation. A trireme, a warship, is sent out that very day to carry out the sentence. It's happening. But then, the next day comes, and with the heat of the moment gone, this chilling feeling starts to creep in across the city, a wave of remorse. People start to realize what they've actually done, calling the decree cruel and monstrous. They've just sentenced thousands of people, many of them totally innocent, to either death or slavery. So in a move that almost never happens, the leaders agree to do the unthinkable. They're going to debate and vote on the exact same issue all over again.
And this sets the stage for what is seriously one of the most famous and fascinating debates in all of ancient history. This is a real battle of ideas. You have a clash between two politicians who have completely opposite views on how Athens should use its power. So in one corner, you've got this guy Cleon. The historian Thucydides literally calls him the most violent of the citizens, and he was also the most powerful politician in Athens. He's the one who pushed for the death sentence in the first place, and he's back to argue for it again. And in the other corner, a man named Diodotus. We honestly don't know a lot about him, but he's the one who stands up to argue for mercy, but a very pragmatic kind of mercy. Cleon's argument is just brutally direct. He basically tells the Athenians to wake up and stop deluding themselves. Your empire, he says, isn't a friendship club. It's a despotism. It's held together by force. He argues that things like pity and mercy are weaknesses that an empire just can't afford. The only way to keep control, he says, is to make a horrifying example out of Mytilene, to show everyone that the price of rebellion is annihilation. It's all about order through fear. Then Diodotus gets up and he does something really clever. He completely reframes the whole conversation. He says, hey, listen, we are not a court of law here. We're not trying to figure out who's guilty or innocent. This is a political assembly. Our only job is to figure out what is the best policy for Athens. So the real question isn't what do they deserve? The question is, what is in our best interest? And you can really see their two different approaches clashing right here. Cleon is all about vengeance.
He thinks the death penalty will scare anyone else from rebelling. It's about justice, plain and simple. But Diodotus has a counter for everything. He argues that an extreme punishment just means future rebels will fight to the death, which will cost Athens way more in the long run. He keeps hammering this point. We're not judges, we're policymakers. And his most strategic point? Sparing the common folks, who were often pro-Athens anyway, makes them future allies instead of creating more enemies by punishing everyone.
So, that's it. The speeches are over, the arguments have been made, and now the lives of thousands of people come down to a simple show of hands. But believe me, the drama is just getting started.
The assembly votes again. And the result? It's terrifyingly close. You could cut the tension with a knife. But by the slimmest of margins, Diodotus' argument for mercy wins. The city lets out this huge collective sigh of relief. And then it hits them. The ship. The first ship, the one carrying the death sentence, is already out there a day ahead. And this kicks off one of the most incredible races against time you've ever heard of. A second warship is scrambled immediately with a new decree of mercy, but it has to catch the first one, which has a full day's head start. The Mytilenean ambassadors in Athens, desperate, offer the new crew massive rewards. They stock the ship with wine and barley cakes, and these guys, they row like their lives depend on it, because, well, thousands of other lives do. They eat and sleep in shifts, right there at their oars, never stopping. And the historian Thucydides just paints this incredible picture for us. You have the first ship, on its untoward errand, not really in a rush to deliver its horrible news, it's just sailing along. But then you have the second ship, absolutely flying across the water, powered by adrenaline, wine, and desperation, knowing that every single stroke of the oar matters. Meanwhile, back in Mytilene, the Athenian general, a man named Paches, has already received the first message. He has the order to kill them all. The city has no idea that their fate is literally being decided by a high-speed chase out on the Aegean Sea. And it comes right down to the wire. The second ship arrives just in the nick of time. Paches, the general, has literally just read the execution order out loud and is getting ready to begin the massacre when the second ship sails into the harbor. It's like a movie. The city is saved just moments from total destruction. But what did this Athenian mercy actually look like in practice? Well, it definitely wasn't a get-out-of-jail-free card. While the general population was spared, a heavy price was still paid. About 1,000 men were still executed. So, who were they? They were the men that Paches, the general on the scene, had singled out as the primary ringleaders of the whole revolt. And, in a bit of an ironic twist, they were executed on a motion put forward by, you guessed it, Cleon. So the final outcome wasn't total mercy or total vengeance. It was a compromise, targeted executions instead of wiping the whole city out. And the punishment didn't even stop there. Athens was going to make absolutely sure Mytilene could never be a threat again. They tore down the city's defensive walls. They took their entire fleet of warships. And they seized most of their land and gave it to Athenian colonists. So yeah, mercy here was still a very, very harsh display of imperial power. Which brings us right back to that question from the beginning. In the end, by sparing most of the people but executing the leaders and completely crippling the city, did Athens actually find a just middle ground? Or did they just make the coldest, most calculated, self-interested decision they could? Was it justice? Or was it just smart politics? That's a tough question that the Mytilenean debate still asks us, 2.5 millennia later.